Welcome to The Bottom Line. I am your host, Maya Weinreb. I am the CEO of Solvency Now Bookkeeping and Maya Management LLC. All right, let's get into this, guys. Let's talk money.
We have quite a few topics to discuss today.
We do.
But
I have a lot to say about a lot of things.
A lot of people have been very interested about your content on real estate and bookkeeping for real estate investors.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of real estate investors. I didn't really know that real estate bookkeeping was a hot topic, but you know what?
It is.
Let's talk money.
I mean, you're getting thousands of views on YouTube about real estate.
Yeah.
And you know what's incredible is I've noticed that when you talk strategy, people are very interested.
That's true. I'm pretty strategic.
So let's talk about strategy. Let's talk about real estate and how that connects with your strategies.
I mean, I like real estate. I honestly think that real estate investors are super easy to do bookkeeping for, and it seems really complicated, but it's not. You know, we try to just sign up as many of them as we can, because for them, it's complicated because you have to split. I actually just did a consultation recently with one of our real estate investors, and she was so happy because before she came to us, it was just all confusing. It's like, okay, well, I have this property and this property and this property and this property sometimes gives it money to this property. And then this isn't under an LLC. And I have a business partner on this LLC. And I can see how it gets so confusing, but it's just like, okay, good. Let's run the reports by property. Let's run the reports by LLC. So you can see your profit either way. You can see if you have to do a profit split with, you know, a business partner on one property, then you can see what the profit is. If you have to do a profit split with a business partner on one LLC that has 3 properties, you can see what the profit is per LLC. So it's like, let's just keep it simple. And honestly, my whole motto in bookkeeping is let's keep it simple.
Well, I got to tell you one thing. I don't know if you realize this, but just the fact that you know how to run the report by X thing is a lifesaver, because I think a lot of business owners just don't know how to use the reporting features in QuickBooks.
It's true.
And it drives them crazy.
Well, it's not just the reporting feature. You have to enter it a certain way. Like you can't just like throw data in there and say, okay, tell me what it is by property. Like it's not going to answer that.
It has to be done right.
Yeah. So you have to use classes and locations. You have to turn them both on. So you have to pay for like the higher level of QuickBooks. It's probably QuickBooks Essentials. So you turn on classes and locations, and let's talk strategy. Let's talk how to do this. You literally go into the settings in QuickBooks, because even if you're paying for it, they're not automatically on. You have to go into the settings and turn it on. I just hope everyone really is like, oh.
I wonder why they would do that.
I think because
I'm being sarcastic.
No, honestly, I think because QuickBooks is trying to keep it as simple as possible, because bookkeeping is so complicated for people. It's not that complicated, but they think it is. So they don't want to give you too many options and too many things to confuse you. So they try to dumb it down, which is fine, because you don't usually need all those options. But if you do need them, then you need them. So you got to turn them on.
I imagine that that's very similar to the contractors where they have, you can categorize things by jobs and clients.
Exactly. Job costing.
Yeah.
It's a little different. In that there's other ways to do it that in QuickBooks. So you can use projects in QuickBooks as well. And that will track things by job costing as well. It wouldn't really make sense as contractors have generally lots and lots and lots of projects that they're doing on, because they're constantly doing new ones. Where real estate investors they might have lots of properties, but they're not buying and selling them every week. So a contractor might finish a job in a few months. So you don't necessarily want to class things for contractors. You would probably want to use the projects if you're a contractor instead of the class. You could use the class. There's lots of ways to do things in QuickBooks, but it's sort of like, trial and error. I guess it's
what's convenient to that business, right?
Yeah.
What that business needs reporting wise, what they need to see. Because I remember in a previous episode, you mentioned even like one company might have 3 business owners.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other company has 1 person.
Right.
So they're going to want to see the profit sharing and all these kind of things that this other guy might not need.
Right. And normally, back to real estate investors, normally you would have one set of QuickBooks files per per company. So you have each company has its own EIN, right? Like your company has an EIN, my company has an EIN. So you would have one QuickBooks for one EIN. The only time that I would say to use the same QuickBooks for multiple is for real estate investors, because it doesn't make any sense. Like there's not that much happening. There's not, when you, okay, like if you're Airbnb-ing and if you're, I don't know, a ginormous apartment complex, that might be different, right? But if you're just talking about, one property, maybe you have short-term rentals for that property, or you have 5 properties and you have, short-term rentals or long-term rentals for that property, there's not enough going on that it makes sense to pay for all these different QuickBooks files. So there's pros and cons of that. Pro being that you can, in one set of QuickBooks that you only have to pay, whatever it is, $50 a month, run the reports by location and by LLC. Cons being that if you're filing 1099s, you can't use QuickBooks to file the 1099 because the EINs will be wrong, because each property or each LLC rather has its own EIN and has to 1099 from that EIN.
So on that note, let me ask you a question, because you just made me think of something that I've run into in the past.
Mm-hmm.
What about someone that wants to do accounting or bookkeeping, for their personal things and their LLC? Should they do it in the same QuickBooks file, or should they have 2 separate ones?
Well, first of all, unfortunately, QuickBooks really is not set up for personal bookkeeping.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, it's really not. You can kind of do some workarounds and make it work. And I used to would have said to use mint.com, because mint.com was perfect for personal bookkeeping.
Isn't that like the dumbed down version of QuickBooks, like super simple?
Well, it doesn't exist anymore. They got rid of it. It was a free personal bookkeeping that did, what you needed it to do. And it doesn't exist anymore.
Didn't they become like what's that guy's name? The actor. Didn't he buy it? And then Intuit took over, right?
Yeah. Well, Intuit owned it, and now they rolled it into Credit Karma.
Ryan Reynolds. Isn't that it?
I don't know if he owned
Mint.com.
Mint.com.
He was connected with it somehow.
I don't recall. But Intuit owned it, and then they rolled it into Credit Karma. But Credit Karma doesn't do everything that Mint used to do. So I'm still on the lookout for personal financial software. It sucks because for personal bookkeeping, it's like the reason you need personal bookkeeping is for a different purpose than the reason a business needs bookkeeping. Personally, you want to track if you have any tax deductible expenses and for budgeting and financial planning purposes. But I think that you should just keep it simple.
Well, if you have a single source of income, it's not that crazy, right?
Right.
But if you have money coming in from 5, 10 different sources, that's where it can get a little psychotic.
Here's the thing. We do have clients that have a QuickBooks file for their personal finance, or their personal bookkeeping, right? Or their personal money in and out, because they just need to know it. And so we will do that for people when they have like multiple companies or whatever. They also want us to track their personal. We do. We don't just do personal bookkeeping for people, because it honestly usually takes longer than business bookkeeping, because think about it, like
it's all weird, like personal, like.
Yeah. And how many credit cards do most people have?
Yeah.
Like 5, 10 credit cards plus like a personal bank account. I mean, even me, it's like someone offers me a high yield savings account. I'm like, hell yeah, let me get 5%. Let me get in on that. And now I have like 10 bank accounts, and some of them only have $500 in it, and it just sits there. And if I had to actually do bookkeeping for every single account that I had, it would take a long time.
Right.
So I don't. I just track my tax deductible expenses. On the personal side, like I track my C Corp tracks my medical expenses under Maya management. But like, rent, because part of it is a home office expense that's tax deductible, donations, things like that. I track those. But for my personal financial planning, I just do, kind of like the estimated set asides amounts. So I just try to keep it as simple as possible. We should do an episode on that. And I am looking for personal financial software that's better than what QuickBooks can offer, because QuickBooks really is not set up. And I'm probably going to make just like a spreadsheet that's going to be tailored to personal finances that I can, either give away or sell as a help to people. Like, hey, Mint got closed. If you need help, use this. And if you just used it for like, each week you filled one out or whatever, like maybe that would help.
Have you ever used those new AI apps that are coming out for budgeting? Like you connect them to your bank account and they analyze your spending. Have you tried those?
Yeah.
Do they work? Are they good?
I don't know. I haven't used them enough to have formed an opinion. It wasn't useful to me because to me, it's like they're doing budgeting like government does budgeting, right?
Exactly. But I also feel like we're going to reach this point where, 100 years from now, it's going to be like, you've spent too much money on ice cream, Joe. You can't have any more ice cream. Your card has been frozen. Like it's just going to go to some 1984 extreme.
I mean, I don't know. It's like, okay, so your average groceries is $1,000 a month and now you're at 1,200. Stop spending money on groceries. And it's like, okay, but like,
is that too much or is that too little? Right.
And in the end, that is not the fucking point.
Yeah.
The point is, did you plan to spend that much or did you not?
Right. The human element is missing in those kind of things.
Yeah.
You have to have a human being in the end
to make the decision.
Who makes the decision and who knows if that's the right thing or not, right?
Yeah. Like my sister she told me she uses like, what is it called? You Need a Budget, YNAB.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very popular. And so I signed up and I was trying to check it out. But I was like, like it takes a lot of time to set up. And then I was like, am I really going to use it? So I don't know.
So you just I came up with a question that I want to ask you. I know you don't do this for a living, right? This is not like your normal thing you do, but let's just say some person went up to you and was like, I want to figure out my life so that my spending resulted in my happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Like make their budget, their life, but I'm not talking about their business or whatever. Like, let's say money wasn't the concern, but for some reason they weren't happy with how they were spending their money.
Mm-hmm. I know what I would do, because here's the thing. There is nothing that I could do to tell someone what to do with their money that will make them happy. Because as soon as you relinquish responsibility for your own finances and money, you are unhappy. I would say, motherfucker, sit down and make a plan. Like I can help them. I've helped a lot of people with this. And you start with your ideal budget, right? So you go through and you go, if I could have everything I wanted in my life, and this is awesome because this creates income demand. And I recommend strategy. Everyone right now should sit down and make a list of all the things that they want to have in their life and how much they'll cost them. Like, okay, how much do I want to spend on vacations every year? How much do I want to donate to my church every year? How much do I want to donate to other charities every year? How much do I, like, if my kid went to the ideal school, how much does that cost? How much money do I want to invest every year? You can break it down weekly, monthly, whatever, but sometimes it's easier to think with the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, and then also add in, you go through strategy-wise, go through all your bank accounts and credit cards, export it all to a spreadsheet, sort it, find out how much you're actually spending on stuff, label it all, go through for, take like 3 months, let's say, so you could, extrapolate it out. In the last 3 months, how much did I spend on groceries? How much did I spend on this? Because you need to add that all in there because that's what's actually happening in your life. But maybe you're spending, $1,200 a month on Starbucks. And you're like, well, that's not what I want. I don't want to be spending $1,200 a month. For $1,200, and obviously I'm exaggerating, but for $1,200, I could buy a very fancy espresso machine. So maybe I don't want to spend that kind of money. But you go through and you write down like what you want your budget to be, your ideal budget. If you
Isn't
can have
that crazy,
everything you
though,
want.
that like you could take that $1,200 and buy an espresso machine and then never again have to spend $1,200 a month.
You could, but unless going to Starbucks makes you happy,
right? Because maybe somebody doesn't want to go through the hassle of making the coffee every morning.
Yeah.
But that's something crazy to think about. I'm sure there are people that spend $1,200 a month on Starbucks.
God, I hope not, but maybe. Think about this, like probably less because less people are smoking these days. But how much money did people used to spend on cigarettes?
Yeah.
And people still do, but I just see so much less. Now it's like vapes, right? I don't even know how much does vape juice cost. But it's apparently vaping is more unhealthy for you than cigarettes, and cigarettes were big, whatever, right? But there's just way less people smoking cigarettes now than there were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But still, let's talk about this strategy. So you go through, because this is very important, and I think everyone should do this right now. Like as you're listening to this, go through. And it takes a lot of confront. You have to own this. You have to sit there. You have to like, you know, make the time to do this. You can't just do it between coffee breaks or something, right? Like just do it. Go through your bank accounts and everything, sort out how much you spend on every single thing. Mint.com used to be really great for this. And then you have this beautiful like financial plan. And you're like, of all the things that you aspire to do and be, how much do you want to invest in your personal, not even for your company, just for yourself, invest in your personal development? How much do you want to invest in like retreats? You know, how much do you want to like spend on clothes? You have your ideal wardrobe that you want. You know, do the research. Like it's almost like a vision board, but like for your money. And then this is the hard part. Go through and figure out what your actual income has been for the last few months or for the last year. And then you start slashing like what actually fits in there. But you don't get rid of your ideal budget because you're going to use that.
It's like set aside.
Yeah, it's your vision board for your finances.
So I think we're on the verge of coining a new term here.
A finance vision board.
Is it a bling board?
A bling board? Yes, it's your bling board.
I'm writing that down. You better trademark that right away.
Bling board. We're going to make software for the bling board. And it's going to have like stickers and stuff. And you're just going to like dollar bills everywhere.
Hey,
wait, can I have my gun real quick?
Yeah.
This is our bling board.
Shoot it everywhere. I would pay for an app like that every month.
I mean, it's just so easy to do on a spreadsheet, but sure, we can make an app for it.
Spreadsheets are clunky.
It's true.
Right? Like there's nothing more annoying when you're on your phone than having to scroll through the cells of a spreadsheet, at least for me.
That's true. I would never look at a spreadsheet on my phone.
Yeah. And then you turn it sideways and everything goes like
really
weird,
hard.
You know?
Okay. So someone needs to build an app, probably me, who, if you're listening to this and you're an app developer.
Isn't there some dude on the other side of this wall that knows how to program?
Well, ask him if he wants to make a bling board. Yeah. And then, but he gets paid on the profits because I don't have money to give him for it because my money's tied up in other investments. But yeah, but the idea would be that you keep this board, right? You keep this list because it's like your inspiration. And like I said, the next part is hard because then you take a copy of it and you take your actual income and you slash until it fits into your income. And now you have an actual plan, but you also have income demand. Then you go, fuck, I need to make more money.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And sometimes people, this is sort of therapeutic because people, I like almost everyone I've done this with, they cry.
And I think it's becoming more and more important, obviously, that income that you realize you need to make that's extra has to be as passive as possible.
That is true also.
Because you're just never going to make it otherwise. I mean, unless you're incredibly talented and skilled and you can rise up the ladder very quickly, I think it does behoove you to
figure out passive income.
Generate passive income.
Buy some real estate, be a real estate investor, and then hire my company to do bookkeeping for you.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, but I want to talk about the difference between passive income and like get rich quick or being lazy. Like there is no person in the world, and I've talked to billionaires and I've talked to multimillionaires and I've talked to lots of people. Not a single one of them is lazy.
Of course. You can't be lazy and reach your goal there.
I thought you could when I started my company.
Well, I think there are exceptions. Like I think a lot of
maybe if you got like a
family members and things.
Sure, if you got a inheritance or a trust
aristocrats
fund.
And things like that.
Yeah. But none of these people who are self-made and honestly probably all the ones that, are still producing in order to make it, none of them are lazy.
Well, funny enough, recently I saw a quote from Mark Cuban. I think it was Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
He was saying that becoming a millionaire is hard work. Becoming a billionaire is luck. And he was saying basically that it's like it takes a lot of work to get to the millionaire point, but taking that to the billionaire status is completely being at the right place at the right time, having the right connections, knowing certain people, and just being there to make it happen.
Makes sense. Grant Cardone says your net worth is your network. So it's like, but you have to work hard to get into the right places, to be at the right place at the right time.
That's true.
And here's the thing, like I want to bring this up. When I started my company, I thought, great, this is going to be easy. I can work from home. I can hire other people to do this for me. I'm going to be able to work less hours. I was working 50, 60 hours at my job, It's like, I can work, other people can do this, this is going to be easy. I thought I started a company so I could be lazy. I was insane. I work double what I used to work. Yeah. And, you know, if I'm having a bad week or a bad month, my employees are all getting paid before I do. And I realize my responsibility is to them and to my clients and to serve them, to make it so they can do their job. And I have to, in the background, work my ass off so that exists. I have to, you know, make sure there's enough clients. I have to make sure the clients are happy. I have to make sure that the bookkeepers have everything that they need, you know, all this stuff. So working, you know, starting your own company is not like, or even doing anything to have passive income. Like, I just think people need to realize that the estimation of effort needed. So one, they don't give up too easily because in a year they didn't make their $1 million. I mean, a lot of people do make $1 million in a year, but not a majority of people, you know? So if in a year you don't make your $1 million, or if you find out that it's way harder work than you think it's going to be, or you're a real estate investor and you have to look at way more properties than you think. And then there's a recession and then no one wants to buy the property or you can't rent it out. All these things happen. It's all hard work. And there's no way you're going to make more money without being willing to do the hard work to create the passive income.
True.
So I just want people to think about that, because I feel like it becomes this like trendy thing of like, oh, get rich quick, like work from home, whatever. Or like people used to try to sell me programs. They're like, here's a thing that you can do so you can work less hours and have more work-life balance. And I was like, you're crazy. I'm not going to make more money if I work. I mean, you always can work smarter and make more money, right? Like I'm working the same amount of hours and making more money, of course, right? But I can't have as my purpose to work 5 hours a week and expect to make millions and millions of dollars. Like it's just maybe at some point, but not when you're, you know, pushing to get there. So I just like, I really like, you know, it's like if you could tell yourself one thing from 5-10 years ago, like, stop being lazy. Stop thinking you can be lazy. Like it's gonna be hard work.
All the way.
Yeah, you can't.
A wise man once said, nothing ever stays the same, right? It either gets better or it gets worse.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a very interesting topic that we've kind of covered a few things, but the episode was
I have a lot to say.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And in the next episode, we're going to be talking about being a woman in business.
Ooh, yeah.
And also mastering small business finances and what that entails. So looking forward to that. Are we
also talking about like the work from home online kind of thing?
Yeah, you mentioned that. We're going to talk about that
as well. Let's talk more about that. I have a lot of things to say.
Yeah. And it's very funny because that, you know, that can tie in very interestingly with not being lazy, you know, working from home.
Yeah.
Something and not people that I struggle think, with.
Yeah. And not that I think most people are lazy. It's more just like if you think that you can start a company or do something
to be lazy,
you're wrong.
That's right.
Thanks for watching The Bottom Line. If you enjoyed this episode, like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on notifications. This is hilarious.